feel like the last few games we've really seen what that Evan Mobley step could potentially look like, right? And if you've been a Cavs fan for any period of time, you have heard or have talked about for a very long time, or at least the last year and a half, about the Evan Mobley step. Now, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about when we're saying, hey, when Evan Mobley takes this leap, when Evan Mobley takes this step, and why people are so excited about a potential step for Evan Mobley, I'll try my best to explain it right now. Evan Mobley is 7 feet tall, and he has, a 7'4" or something crazy like that wingspan. When you watch him out there, he doesn't move like other 7-footers, right? Like most 7-footers are stilted. They're not as athletic. They're not as quick. Evan Mobley, he's capable of doing all the things. He has a decent shooting touch, at least a shooting touch that doesn't look broken, right? Which is very important when it comes to these 7-footers. Like, you ever seen Giannis, even though he makes more of those threes now, like take a shot, it looks kind of broken, right? But Evan doesn't have that problem. He's also a great passer, and defensively, he can guard 1 through 5 at 7 feet tall, which is something that, like, rare of rare, right? Not even like dudes like Tim Duncan were able, well, maybe in Tim Duncan's prime he was able to do that, but like this is like Kevin Garnett type stuff, right? Defensively, with Evan. And the thing that's interesting with Evan Mobley is that defensively, he's about as far as his current frame can take him, right? Like, he's doing all, and that's not like a slight. He's already like a top 5 defensive player in the NBA. And he's as far as that frame can take him. Offensively, I think there's still some room for him to get a little bit more consistent in his current frame, right? But I also feel like the step with Evan Mobley is not just like offensively, it's when he gains that extra weight, and when he gets to 245 pounds. And that's just kind of like an arbitrary number. It could be 235. The ideal is that he just needs to get bigger. And you see it in these games, especially in the last couple of games where the Cavaliers have played, where they're not playing against other giant bigs. I mean, they did play against Joel Embiid, but this game they played against Orlando. But he struggled in those games where he's playing against like Brook Lopez and Giannis. He struggled in those games where he's going up against Toronto and that very physical team. But games like Detroit, he was actually pretty decent in. And it's no coincidence, in my opinion, that those are the games with lighter centers, right? When all things are even, when Evan Mobley's weight is not pushing him out of certain battles, he can dominate in ways and have very great, very efficient games like he did last night, where he had, in 38 minutes, 19 points, 13 rebounds, 9 of 10 shooting. He shot 90% from the field. 90% from the field, and he made a 3. And he's been making more threes lately. He's been taking them all season, but lately he's been able to make them. And I don't think I need to explain to everybody what if Evan Mobley becomes like a respectable shooter, what that does to defenses with the Cavs. Because if you can't even sag off the power forward, right, and the only dude you got to sag off when it comes to a 3 on the Cavs star lineup becomes Jared Allen, and even then Jared Allen is a 20% 3-point shooter, so yeah, you could definitely sag off Jared Allen if he shoots a 3. But yeah, so if Jared Allen becomes the only person that clogs up the lane or even, has somebody not respect that spacing and get to the 3-point line, if Evan Mobley can be respectable enough there, then all of a sudden Darius's job gets so much easier. That pick and roll becomes deadly, because if it then becomes a pick and pop threat, right? Because we all know Evan Mobley's going to roll to the basket. The defense knows it, so everybody kind of takes the roll. But if Evan Mobley can become enough of a threat as a 3-point shooter to where you can worry about him on the pick and pop, taking the 3, right? Popping out on the pick, cancel Christmas. But we ain't there yet. He's had a decent couple of games from 3, but we are clearly not there yet with Evan Mobley. If we were, we'd be talking about the NBA Finals already or something crazy like that. But that's the leap, in my opinion, right? Right now, the Cavs are on this interesting track because their best player is Donovan Mitchell. And I think with Donovan Mitchell as your best player, I don't know how far you can get with him in this current iteration as him. And I say that not like in a skeptical way. I say that as like literally I don't know, right? Because Donovan is much better than he was in Utah in Cleveland. He's much more efficient, more consistent. He gets 30 points with such ease now. He had 34 today on 7 of 11 3-point shooting, 12 of 21 from the floor. Just ease, right? It's so easy for him, right? And Darius Garland is a nice piece. And then you have Evan Mobley and you have Jared Allen. So you have all of these pieces. So Evan doesn't necessarily have to be the guy yet because there's other guys who could take over for that. But the day that Evan Mobley does become the best player on the Cavs, and it's not because we lost everybody or something like that, it's because Evan Mobley truly has ascended to being the best player on the Cavaliers, that's where it gets very scary for the rest of the NBA, because then we're talking about an MVP, a perennial MVP candidate. And I think that day is when he gets about 245 pounds. We'll see if he can get to that weight. Not everybody can. It's not as simple as eating. But remember, he's 20. And when you're 20, your metabolism works. You know what I mean? Remember when you were 20 and you could just go to the cafeteria if you were in college, just eat whatever you wanted. I used to do the buffet, eat whatever I wanted, and I wouldn't gain a single pound. Now I can't look at a box of Hot Pockets the wrong way without gaining 2 pounds. The metabolism just works right now when you're that young for everybody almost. And Evan, obviously he's very young. He's not going to get that grown man weight. Your grown man weight usually comes when you're 22, 23. And he is 21 at the oldest, maybe even still 20. So he's very young. But once he gets that, all these signs are there, right? When he goes against somebody who's not much stronger than him, you can see, oh, he can do a Euro. Oh, he's physical. Oh, he is aggressive. All these things, right? When he's going against somebody who's much bigger than him, and even sometimes he has these days against Joel Embiid where it doesn't even matter the weight difference, where he can still dominate, especially defensively. But once he gets that extra weight, you could just see that he's going to be able to push through a lot of this physicality that he can't push through right now, that turns into turnovers or fouls or things like that for him. And once that day comes, watch out. Watch out. Now that being said, let's talk about this game real quick. Felt like Lamar Stevens gave you 15 really solid minutes, 8 points, 2 of 4 from 3. If he can be a solid 3-point shooter. Now, he was bad from the field, 3 of 10? You got to figure out why he was so bad from the field. Maybe that's shot selection. But the 2 of 4 from 3, I feel like if you can just get 11 points, maybe he could shave his shooting down to maybe 6 attempts. You know what I mean? He don't need to take more than 6. Well, I would say 10's fine, but in 15 minutes, 10's not fine. So, if he plays 25 minutes, which is probably where you would want him to be, you would probably still want him around 8 shot attempts a game. And you want a dude like him to get to the free throw line a little bit more often. I have the same complaint about Isaac Okoro, where Isaac just doesn't get to the free throw line as much as he should. And the same thing with Lamar Stevens. If you're going to be that aggressive, you got to get to the free throw line. So 8 attempts, I would say get 4 free throws. Well, no, that's a lot. Get at least 2 free throw attempts if you're going to take 8 shots, right? That's probably where you want to be with Lamar Stevens, and it'll be a lot more efficient. Defensively, he's good for you. Offensively, he can do some good things for you with spacing, but that's where you're at with him. Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell were fine. Darius had 18 points, and we talked about Donovan Mitchell getting 30 points with the ease that I breathe with, so he was good. Kevin Love came back. It was much needed. The bench scoring had been abysmal without Kevin Love because it's literally been Jetty or nothing. And Kevin Love, went 4 of 7 from the field, 1 of 3 from 3-point, 11 points today, and 11 rebounds, double for Kevin Love in his return. So shout out to him. I feel like Diakite, he played. I think there is something interesting with this lineup that they can run out there, right? With Evan Mobley at the 5. And I think it was Lamar Stevens at the 4, and then Diakite at the 3, with Darius and Donovan as your 2 backcourt players. And I think there's something interesting about that because Evan Mobley, there is numbers to show when he's the only literal big on the floor, anybody above 6'10", he's dominant. And I think that lineup is interesting, right? Because your backcourt players are going to be your backcourt players, right? Donovan and Darius, they're going to have limitations on what they can switch to. And Darius more so than Donovan. I think Donovan can switch 1 through 3 most nights on occasion. But, I think that's fine. But when you have Diakite on the wing now at 6'9" with that length, it makes avoiding those switches easier. And then you have an athletic, he's not really a big because he's not tall, but an athletic forward in Lamar Stevens out there with Evan Mobley, who he is 7 foot. He is big, but he's not limited by his size, so you can still play small ball, tall ball with him. And I think that's what you can get, right? That is a way with that lineup. I feel like it's interesting enough with those 3 guys, Diakite, Lamar Stevens, and Evan Mobley. And I don't know how often you're going to get a chance to run this once Jared Allen comes back, or maybe if Jared Allen just becomes a center, becomes a power forward in this lineup, and then you still let Evan run the 5. Just to see if that can be maintained, or if Jared's just not athletic enough to do what you want him to do. But I still think the same principle applies because Jared's not much taller than, not much bigger or less athletic than like Diakite. So I think this still applies. Now, you wouldn't put Jared at the 3 like you're putting Diakite, but Lamar Stevens would just be at the 3 then, and then you would put Jared Allen at the 4 with Evan at the 5. Or you can, do what they've been doing, which is keeping Jared Allen at the 5 and then Evan. But I think there's something to putting Evan at the 5 because those rotations can happen a lot easier and much more smoother. And you can move around and adjust, and you're still playing tall ball, but you're playing small ball, right? You're athletic. You can run. You can get going. Diakite and Lamar Stevens, the big thing, like if those 2 could shoot threes, this lineup would be death. Right, like that's the one thing holding this lineup. If those 2 could consistently shoot threes, this lineup would be death, because then you're talking about 4. Well, in plus Evan Mobley, if all of those dudes could shoot threes, it would be death because you can space the floor with everybody, and then you can run up and down, play tall ball on defense, small ball on offense. It would be death. It would change the league, and it would absolutely dominate people because there's no way to really defend that, because now you get the best of both worlds where you have, 3 guys who are tall but athletic enough to play small, and then you got on the other side, on offense, if they had that same skill set, which, Evan's developing the 3-point shot. Diakite, he made a couple threes against in the last game he played in, or not the last game, not the Magic game, but the game before that, he made some threes. So who knows? There's some potential there. And Lamar Stevens has been a little promising from 3-point range. So I mean, it's not out the range of possibility that like that kind of a thing can develop, but that would be a death lineup if you can get something like that going, right? I don't know what Jared Allen's 3-point percentage is, but Jared Allen can start smacking threes. That would be great, but that's just, now we're living in a fantasy world because he's never hit threes before. But you see what the threat is if you have 5 credible 3-point shooters on the floor at the same time. Then on the defensive end, you have 3 guys who can still protect the paint. Like, you see where the threat is with that lineup and why I'm like, there's something interesting with putting Diakite at the 3 and putting Lamar Stevens at the 4 and then putting Evan Mobley at the 5, because that's what they were doing. And Diakite was absolutely at the 3 because he's usually at the 4, but he was at the 3 because he was setting up on the wing. He was defending the wing. Like, interesting choice there by JB. I think he might have stumbled into something there. We'll see. I want to see more of that lineup, especially while Jared Allen's out, to see if, what kind of second units can we run out there to give Jared a rest? And if you can give Jared his rest instead of having to play him like 45 minutes a game, and that's an exaggeration, but still it's not that much of an exaggeration, that's good, right? Because then you can still have the offense with Evan, all those guys, but you get that defense. And that might be the break buster that you have to throw out there, right? The break buster lineup that you get out there when teams are on a run with you and you got to end a break. That might be the break buster, because you can get out and run and nothing ends a scoring drought like being able to run, right? Like that kills scoring droughts. So that's what I took away from this Magic game. Obviously, the Magic aren't that good of a team. They're 1-10 on the road. They're 5-18. The Cavs are a very good team. They're 15-8. Like 10-1 at home. There are 2 teams in exact opposite places. So it's not like a parade because you beat the Magic. But what it is promising on what you saw on how you got there to beat the Magic. Because again, man, Evan Mobley, He's the key to this. He is the key. Now, you got Donovan, so right now, you can fire off, right? Because you got the right now piece. You got the best player that you need right now to continue off in the playoffs and make a run. But Evan Mobley is like Thanos in the first phase of the Avengers, right? He just in there in the background. Like, yeah, you got to get through Loki. You got to get through Ultron. You got to get through all these dudes first. But you know who looming. That's Thanos. And that is who Evan Mobley is for this Cavs team. He is the one to rule them all eventually. But he's kind of just chilling in the background. He's in his phase 1 phase. You know what I mean? But it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this Cavs team. They're interesting right now. They have a ton of future prospects. This is why everybody is so high on them. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night.